The Bucketheads The Bomb is a house classic produced by a master at work. He pulls from techno, disco, rock and religion to create an anthem. There's a huge twist in this one with a family connection I didn't see coming. Join us for the story of The Bomb. I'm Felix Dan, international DJ and producer.
My name's Dan Nightingale from the Have a Word podcast. And
together we're going to explore the samples that feature in tracks you love in a show that we like to call
Show Me the Sample.
The Bucketheads, The Bomb. These sounds fall into my mind. Released in 1995, it hit number 5 in the UK charts. Let's go. Right, let's leave that there. First up, let's talk the video. It was directed by a very young Guy Richie. It was him and his mate Alex. It was shot in London on a budget of £1,000. It was filmed on a Super 8 camera and it was inspired by the Beastie Boys videos of the 80s and 90s. But it was one of the very first paid probably jobs that Guy Richie ever had. Everyone watching this, link us to your favorite music videos in the comments below. We're going to do some reactions to music videos in the future, so we need your suggestions. So your favorite videos, link them in the comments below. What's your favorite Guy Richie film moment, mate? Is it Vinny's smashing performance in Lock, Stock, Brad's Irish accent in Snatch?
Lock, Stock, my favorite scene when they're haggling over that stereo. Don't know, Tom, seems expensive. Seems, but it seems to be a waste of my time. That is 900 knicker in any shop you're lucky enough to find it in, and you're complaining over 200. What? It's a steal, it's a deal.
It's a sale of the fucking century. The Bucketheads are, or is, Kenny Dope Gonzalez, one half of the house music legends masters at work. He hails from Brooklyn, New York, and he is a large man. I remember we booked him many years ago to play our night in Carlisle, and we needed a large Mercedes people carrier to pick him up from the airport. What do you think would be, I mean, it struck me because I've done gigs as well when I've like bumped into like people like Sneak or whatever, and they've obviously been on tour. What do you think would be the worst thing about being a supersized human?
It's a really nice way of saying massively fat cunt. That was a really, like, a supersized human. Wow, they made it sound actually good. Some of those guys, when they make it work, they really fucking make it work. Like, that's still reeling from, in 1975, we brought you an album with a song. That live show has done something to me.
Yes.
Like, I keep thinking about Barry White live, and he wasn't like colossal, but he was a big guy.
Before we get into the samples and their stories, for my DJs, and I know there's plenty that watch, you'll have noticed that there's a sample missing from that radio edit that's on the 12-inch. So have a listen to this, mate. This is how the 12-inch vinyl and the extended versions of The Bomb starts.
That wasn't the second game, and I'm not going to be long this morning. The second game, and I took inventory of several people. The second most popular game that we played as children is house.
That vocal comes from a track by Green Velvet called The Preacher Man, released in 1994, and I think you're going to like this one, mate, because it's a bit naughty.
That wasn't the second game, and I'm not going to be long this morning. The second game, And I took inventory of several people. The second most popular game that we played as children is house. Now you have to watch out when folk are playing house. The object of house was pretension. In other words, you pretended to be mommy and daddy, and if you happen to have been the youngest one in the game, then you had to play the baby role. But as I looked at that today, and I come to the conclusion that there's a lot of us who claim to be saved and we're still playing house. That's why babies are having babies. Playing house. Little girls, before they can even spell mama, are having babies. Swallowed the pumpkin seed over the summer, but when winter is coming, they must produce something. Yeah.
And it goes on like that for another 7 minutes. Now, this is a bit where I think get really interesting. The preacher that Green Velvet sampled in that techno beast was Clarence LaVon Franklin, better known as C.L. Franklin, the Reverend C.L. Franklin, or the $1 Million Voice. He was a Baptist minister, civil rights activist, and, mate, get this, he was the father of Aretha Franklin.
Love it.
Yes, never knew that. And it was one of those facts that I was like, we have to do an episode on this now. Some of these facts are just so good. Many of his sermons were recorded and released. So when Curtis Jones, aka Green Velvet, heard it, he immediately knew he wanted to record something with it. The vocal sample has been properly cleared. It was released as an a cappella on the re-release of The Preacher Man, and it's available to buy on Beatport too. Green Velvet, mate, have you ever seen Green Velvet?
No.
Can I show you Green Velvet, please?
Yes.
That's Green Velvet.
Wow, he looks like he plays for the Philadelphia Eagles about 20 years ago.
He is a
Jesus
cool, eccentric, but cool motherfucker. Now, I want to assume a couple of things here, first of all. Number one, that you've still got hair. Number two, that you're going to rebrand as an underground techno DJ. What colour mohawk are you going for?
You know when the Romania squad dyed their hair peroxide blonde?
Yeah.
In and around sort of Eminem turning up. I did that to myself. I went Dan Petrescu blonde. I don't know if it was 98 or 2000, but I'll be honest, I thought I looked fucking great.
The main sample in the track comes from Chicago Street Player, released in 1979. It was in fact a cover of Rufus and Shaka Khan Street Player, released the previous year in 1978, but that bears no relevance on our sample because they didn't sample that. They sampled the Chicago version. So let's take a listen to the Chicago version. I've cut it up so you can hear the samples nice and clearly. Let's go.
So weird when you hear these originals that you've not heard before and you're like, it just sounds like the shit version of the good song. I love it.
And so this is something else that attracted me to this as an episode. I learned something else that I didn't know before. Interestingly, the vocal we all hear in the bomb, These Sounds Fall Into My Mind, is a mondegreen. Now that's when you mishear or misinterpret a lyric in a song. The actual sampled lyric from Chicago that we just heard is street sounds swirling through my mind, but everyone hears it in the bomb as these sounds fall into my mind.
These sounds fall into my mind, yeah.
What's the best or any for that matter, misheard heckle either you've had, so you've been on stage, someone shouted something to you and you've misheard it and responded, or have you been there and someone's misheard a heckle and then totally come back the wrong way? Have you ever any memory of anything like that in a comedy club?
Yeah, Dave Twentyman. Shout out Dave Twentyman. He's been at the coalface of stand-up for 20 years. He's so funny, Dave Twentyman. He's like one of the most northern comics. He was at a gig once and he asked if there was any Hindus in, and his Lancashire accent is so strong. An Asian man at the back put his hand up and went, "I'm a Hindu." And I just think yeah, he's retold that a lot, and I'm doing one of his bits. So, Dave, shout out. That's still funny to me. That the room's like, "Is there any Hindus in?" And one guy's like, "Yeah, I am a Hindu." That's
the story of a house classic, mate. What are you saying to the samples in that one?
Well, the original sounds all wrong and weird, and the one that I know from 95 is a fucking cracker. So I'm saying, great work.
Subscribe to Show Me the Sample on Patreon. Get longer uncut episodes with much more banter 1 week before the shorter episode is released. He's been Dan Nightingale.
He's been Felix Leiter.
See ya.